Good day, everyone. So, what I wanted to talk about further is kind of the state of the German military and how did the German armed forces get to where they are now in terms of lack of readiness and lack of capability. What I mean by capability is the ability to execute a a war, not a humanitarian disaster, but a actual major military conflict. But first, what I think we need to do is kind of look at the German defense ministers. And we also need to take a look at, say, the United States Secretary of Defense, and kind of compare and contrast what that looks like a little bit. So if you look at Secretary Gates, who was the Secretary of Defense under Obama, who was a pretty liberal president and was not what I would define as pro-military. Even Secretary Gates had a background in the United States Air Force and in Air Force intelligence, and obviously he served with the CIA. The current Secretary of Defense, Secretary Esper, was with the U.S. Army, 101st Airborne Division, commanded combat infantry troops, served about 10 years, understood the operational art, and definitely has experience applicable to the job of Secretary of Defense. And then we take a look at the German defense minister, and we'll start with the last minister who served for a fairly significant amount of time, I believe in excess of 6 years, and that is Ursula von der Leyen. And maybe I'm saying that wrong. I hope not. Please correct me if I am wrong. But her experience is not one of the operational art or military background or anything of the sort. She was a medical doctor who, after her education, followed her husband to Stanford University and was a housewife. And there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. But from the early 90s into about 96, she was a mother, a housewife at Stanford, while her husband was a professor at Stanford University, a very liberal university in the United States. Fast forward from 96 and when she became defense minister in the mid 2020s, or early 2000s, I'm sorry. She then becomes defense minister of Germany. So you have a person who, with no military background, who has a medical background, who has kind of had an on and off career just in terms of kind of what she was doing with nothing to do with the military, other than being a political crony of Angela Merkel, who is the chancellor of Germany. And that gets her into the spot of not a ranking person within the military itself, but basically leads the total armed forces. And if you look at the motto of the German land forces, the motto is to protect, help, moderate, and last but not least, fight. So I think that says a lot. The next person to take the helm as the German defense minister is a person by the name of Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer. And she, again, no former military training. Her major work experience post-university has been working for a major political party in Germany, which happens to be with the same political party as, you guessed it, Angela Merkel. So again, another leader in the defense ministry with no military training. And this is the person who is setting budgets and has the next vision for the armed forces of Germany. And then when you look at a ground forces of 60,000 men, which is 40% smaller than after the Treaty of Versailles after World War I. Think about that for a second. They were allowed to have 100,000 men in their ground forces after surrendering in World War I. These defense ministers who have no applicable military training have destroyed the German capacity to defend itself. And that's why Germany is in the position that it is in today. And this really needs to be looked at and corrected. And if it's not, I fear that this really great nation with a wonderful history could be in for some hard times in the future. Thanks.